Listen to me right now. The number one reason people feel stuck, drained, and powerless isn't because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. It's because they keep giving their power away. You keep waiting for someone to notice you, to validate you, to approve of you. You keep chasing, begging, and needing, when deep down you were never created to need them. You were created to rise, to lead, to become unstoppable. Think about it. How much energy have you wasted trying to convince someone to love you, to see your worth, to give you the respect you should have been giving yourself all along? Every ounce of energy you spend chasing their approval is energy stolen from building your vision, your body, your mind, your soul. And that is why you feel tired. That is why you feel small. That is why you feel like no matter what you do, it's never enough. Here's the truth: needing them is weakness. Becoming unstoppable is power. You were not put here to live at the mercy of someone else's opinion. You were put here to create, to build, to expand, to lead. And the moment you flip the switch from needing them to becoming unstoppable, your life will never look the same. Look around. Every person who ever made history, every person who ever shifted culture, every person who became great had one thing in common. They stopped needing permission. They stopped begging to be chosen. They stopped waiting for someone to give them the green light. They decided, I am enough, I am capable, I am unstoppable. That's the moment their life took off, and that's the moment yours will too. But let's get real here. It's not easy to break free, because we've been conditioned from day one to seek approval. Parents told you, do this so people like you. Teachers told you, fit in, don't rock the boat. Society told you, be good, don't stand out too much. And little by little, you built your identity around their acceptance. So now, when they don't clap for you, you shrink. When they don't notice you, you question your worth. That stops today. You don't need them. You don't need their likes. You don't need their applause. You don't need their validation. You need discipline. You need vision. You need grit. You need to decide that nothing, not rejection, not failure, not fear, will stop you from becoming who you're meant to be. Here's how unstoppable people live. They don't chase. They attract by becoming undeniable. They don't beg. They build so much power within themselves that others can't ignore them. They don't cry about who left. They pour everything into leveling up so that those who left can't even recognize the version of them they walked away from. You want to become unstoppable? Start today. Build your body so strong that it screams discipline. Build your mind so sharp it cuts through doubt. Build your skills so powerful no one can deny your value. Build your spirit so unshakable that rejection feels like fuel, not failure. Stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, am I proud of me? Stop asking, will they choose me? And start declaring, I choose myself. Stop needing, start building. Stop waiting, start creating. Stop doubting, start executing. Because here's the truth. Nobody can stop you but you. Nobody can limit you but you. The chains you feel are invisible, and you put them there the moment you made someone else's opinion more powerful than your own belief. Break them, tear them off, step into your own greatness. You want revenge, outgrow them. You want power, build yourself. You want respect, stop asking for it. Command it by who you become. They don't owe you anything. They don't owe you attention, love, or validation. But you owe it to yourself to unleash the version of you that's been buried under fear, doubt, and neediness for far too long. The most dangerous, unstoppable force in the world is a person who stops needing anyone else to validate them. That's when you move different. That's when you speak different. That's you've been giving your power away. You've been walking around like your value depends on whether somebody claps for you, whether they smile at you, whether they say, good job. And let me tell you something. You are not here to beg for applause. You are here to build yourself so strong, so focused, so unstoppable that people can't help but notice. Think about how much of your life you've wasted in that cycle of approval seeking. You post something online and then you check every 5 minutes to see who liked it. You speak up in a room and then replay the conversation wondering, did they like me? Did I say the right thing? You bend your back, lower your standards, even betray your own truth just to fit into someone else's box of acceptance. And in doing that, you shrink your power, you shrink your identity, you shrink your life. Stop it. Stop begging for crumbs of validation when you've got a feast of greatness sitting inside you. Confidence doesn't come from how many people clap for you. It comes from the work you put in when nobody's watching. It comes from the hours you grind when everyone else is asleep. It comes from the standards you refuse to lower. That's what makes you undeniable. Listen, approval is temporary, but confidence is eternal. Their applause fades, their opinion shifts, their attention wanders, but when you build real confidence, when you know you've done the work, when you know you've fought through the fear, when you know you've kept the promises you made to yourself, that stays with you forever. That is power. Confidence is built in the dark. It's built when nobody's texting you back, when nobody's calling your name, when nobody's patting you on the back. That's where the warriors are made, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Not in the noise, but in the silence. The question is, what are you doing in those moments? Are you scrolling and sulking, waiting for them to notice? Or are you sharpening your mind, strengthening your body, leveling up your game until they can't ignore you even if they try? The people who win in this life don't chase. They create. They don't beg. They build. They don't shrink for approval. They expand until their presence demands respect. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to stop caring who doesn't believe in you and start asking, do I believe in me? You've got to stop chasing the likes and start chasing growth. You've got to stop lowering your standards for acceptance and start raising your standards for yourself. Every time you say yes to something just to be liked, you say no to the life you were meant to live. Every time you hold back your voice because you're afraid of what they'll think, you silence the power that could transform everything. And every time you chase their approval, you're telling yourself you're not enough without it. That ends right now. Confidence is not arrogance. It's not about being louder than everyone else or faking strength. Confidence is knowing you don't need to prove a damn thing. It's walking into the room and not needing to be the center of attention, because you know who you are, you know what you've built, and you know what you're capable of. Let me be blunt. Some of you have been playing small your entire life just because you're addicted to people liking you. You think you're humble, but really you're afraid. Afraid they'll reject you, afraid they'll leave, afraid they'll laugh. But guess what? They already left, they already laughed, they already doubted. And you're still here, you're still breathing, you're still standing. That means you don't need them. What you need is you. The second you stop begging and start building, everything changes. Your energy changes. Your posture changes. Your voice changes because you're no longer living for approval. You're living for purpose, and people are drawn to that. Confidence is magnetic. When you believe in you, the world has no choice but to feel it. So here's the challenge. Stop outsourcing your worth. Stop waiting for them to clap. Stop giving them the keys to your happiness. Take it back. Build yourself in such a way that even on your worst day, you stand tall. Build yourself until your reflection in the mirror is enough proof that you're unstoppable. Build yourself until you don't care who's watching, because you know who you are, you know what you've done, and you know where you're going. Think about it. How many times have you bent yourself into a shape that wasn't even yours, just to get a little bit of approval? You played small so someone else could feel big. You said yes, when everything in your gut was screaming no. You laughed at things that weren't funny. You pretended to be okay when you weren't. You chased attention you didn't even need, just for a taste of validation. And when you got it, how long did it last? A minute, an hour, maybe a day. Then what happened? It disappeared, it faded, and you were right back where you started, empty, anxious, hungry for more. That's the game of approval. It's never enough. You get a little, then you crave more. You get applause once, then you chase it again. It's like drinking salt water. It doesn't quench your thirst, it makes you thirstier. That's why so many people feel burned out, lost, or stuck. They've built their life on the weak foundation of other people's opinions. But self-respect, that's different. Self-respect doesn't fade. It doesn't depend on who's watching, who's clapping, or who's giving you permission. Self-respect is built on discipline, on standards, on doing what you said you'd do, even when it's hard. Self-respect is when you look in the mirror and say, I trust me, I back me, I'm proud of me. And let me tell you something. That feeling, that power, that fire inside of you, nobody can take it away. Let me ask you right now, whose voice is louder in your head? The voice of approval or the voice of respect? Because if the voice of approval is running your life, you'll always feel like you're performing, like you're acting, like you're auditioning for a role you'll never fully land. But when the voice of self-respect takes over, you stop performing. You stop auditioning, you start living. Approval is cheap. Self-respect is priceless. Approval comes from clapping hands. Self-respect comes from calloused hands. Approval is given. Self-respect is earned. Approval is external. Self-respect is internal, and here's the truth. External approval can disappear in a heartbeat, but internal respect stays with you as long as you keep feeding it. And let's be real, approval is conditional. People will love you when you're winning, but where are they when you fail? They'll praise you when you do what they like, but criticize you the second you don't. That's the trap. If you keep chasing their approval, you'll keep living their life, not yours. Self-respect, though, that's unconditional. It doesn't matter who comes, who goes, who loves you, or who walks away. It's rooted in your standards, in your actions, in the truth you choose to live by every single day. Nobody can take that from you unless you hand it over. Now, let's get practical. How do you build self-respect? You build it by keeping promises to yourself. You said you'd work out, then do it. You said you'd launch that project, then do it. You said you'd stop tolerating toxic people, then cut them off. Every time you keep your word to yourself, your respect for yourself grows. Every time you break it, you shrink, and here's the key. The way you treat yourself sets the standard for how the world treats you. If you constantly betray your own word, why would anyone else trust you? If you don't respect yourself, why would anyone else respect you? But when you show up for yourself consistently, the world can feel it. It's in your energy, it's in your presence, it's in the way you walk into a room. People sense when someone respects themselves, and they have no choice but to mirror it. You want freedom, build self-respect. You want unshakable confidence, build self-respect. You want to stop living for everyone else and finally live for you, build self-respect. Because at the end of the day, approval fades, but self-respect lasts forever. So the question is, are you going to keep chasing applause that disappears, or are you ready to build respect that never leaves? Are you going to keep begging for validation, or are you ready to build a life where your own approval is enough? How many of you in this room are waiting to be picked, waiting for somebody to recognize you, waiting for the promotion, waiting for the relationship, waiting for someone to give you permission to finally step into your own damn life? And while you're waiting, what's happening? You're shrinking. You're putting your power in someone else's hands. You're telling the world, I don't believe in me until somebody else stamps me with approval. That's why you feel stuck. That's why you feel small. Because when you're begging to be chosen, you've already declared to yourself that you're not enough on your own. And let me tell you something right now. You are enough. You always were. But you've been trained, conditioned, programmed to think that your value comes from outside of you. School trained you to wait for grades. Jobs trained you to wait for promotions. Society trained you to wait for likes, followers, claps, validation. And the truth is, the longer you wait to be chosen, the longer you delay your life. Stop waiting. Stop begging. Stop sitting on the sidelines of your own destiny. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need anyone's stamp of approval. You don't need anyone to say, okay, now you're ready. You're already ready. You just haven't stepped up. Think about this: every leader, every game changer, every legend you look up to wasn't chosen. They chose themselves. They looked at their life and said, I'm done waiting. I'm done begging. I'm done playing small. I'm taking the risk. I'm stepping into the fire. I'm claiming my spot. That's what greatness is. Greatness is not waiting to be discovered. It's deciding you're already discovered. And listen, I get it. Choosing yourself feels scary. Because if you choose yourself, you've got no one else to blame. If you choose yourself and you fail, it's on you. That's why people would rather hide behind waiting. Waiting gives you a story. Waiting gives you an excuse. Waiting gives you someone else to point to when things don't work out. But waiting also robs you of your power, your freedom, your life. The second you stop begging to be chosen and start choosing yourself, everything changes. Your energy changes. Your confidence changes. Your decisions change because now you're not asking, you're declaring. You're not hoping, you're acting. You're not a victim, you're a creator. Let me give it to you straight. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to knock on your door with a golden opportunity and say, "Congratulations, you've been chosen." The world doesn't work like that. But the moment you choose yourself, you stop waiting for opportunities and you start creating them. You stop chasing people and you start attracting them. You stop needing approval and you start living in truth. And here's what's powerful. When you choose yourself, people feel it. They feel your certainty, your conviction, your energy. You stop being invisible. You stop blending in. You stop begging for scraps of attention and start commanding respect. People who once ignored you start paying attention, not because you begged for it, but because you became undeniable. This isn't about arrogance. This isn't about being better than anyone else. This is about finally realizing your worth doesn't need to be negotiated. Your value isn't up for debate. Your life isn't on hold until somebody else says you're ready. You're ready now. So here's my question. Are you going to keep waiting to be picked? Or are you going to pick yourself today? Are you going to keep begging for a seat at the table? Or are you going to build your own damn table? Are you going to keep waiting for them to notice? Or are you going to become so powerful, so focused, so undeniable, that they can't ignore you even if they tried? You've begged long enough. You've waited long enough. You've doubted long enough. The time to choose yourself is right now. Stop begging to be chosen. Start choosing yourself. How many of you are exhausted because you've been chasing people, chasing their attention, chasing their approval, chasing their love, their validation, their time? You bend yourself backwards, you shrink yourself, you twist into knots, you sacrifice your peace, all because deep down you think, if they accept me, I'll finally feel whole. If they choose me, I'll finally feel enough. But here's the truth you've been running from. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is ever going to complete you. Nobody is going to fill the emptiness inside you. Nobody is going to fix the hole in your heart. You've been sold a lie since you were a kid, that one day someone is going to show up and make everything better. That if you find the right person, or if the right person notices you, all your pain, all your insecurity, all yourself, doubt is going to vanish. That is a lie. The reason so many of you are miserable is because you've built your entire sense of worth on whether or not someone else shows up for you. You've made your identity dependent on their recognition. That's why it feels like a drug. You get a little attention, you feel high for a moment. Then they pull away and you crash. You live addicted to their validation like a junkie waiting for the next hit. But here's the wake-up call. Until you build yourself, until you complete yourself, you will always be chasing, always be empty, always be bleeding out your power. Do you understand how much freedom you would have if you stopped expecting other people to do the job only you can do? Think about it. The job of building your confidence, your certainty, your joy, your peace, that's yours. The job of healing your wounds, that's yours. The job of deciding you're worthy, that's yours. Nobody can do that for you. Nobody can step inside your mind and switch on the belief. Nobody can climb inside your chest and stitch up your soul. That's your work. That's your responsibility. And when you take that responsibility, everything shifts. Because now you're no longer begging for someone else to notice you. You're no longer desperate for scraps of attention. You're no longer handing out your power like candy to people who don't deserve it. You become self-sourced, you become your own foundation, you become unshakable. When you realize that only you can complete you, You stop chasing people and start attracting the right ones, because let's be real, people can smell desperation. They can feel when you're trying to get something out of them to feel whole, and it pushes them away. But the moment you show up already complete, already solid, already overflowing, you don't chase, you magnetize. You don't beg, you command. You don't settle, you choose. This is why I'm telling you, stop waiting for someone to fix you. Stop begging them to make you whole. Stop thinking that if they just loved you more, noticed you more, praised you more, you'd finally feel enough. That's a trap. Because even if they gave you everything you thought you wanted, you'd still feel empty inside if you haven't built yourself. You'd still feel insecure if you haven't done the work. You'd still sabotage because you can't outsource the job of self-worth. The people you're chasing are not your saviors. They're not the key to your destiny. They're not the answer to your wounds. You are. Always have been, always will be. So the question is, are you going to keep running in circles, burning out, waiting for someone to complete you? Or are you going to stop, take a breath, and finally step into your own damn power? Are you going to build yourself so strong, so full, so alive, that anyone who comes into your life adds to your joy, but never becomes the source of it? Let me hit you with a truth that might sting for a second. Nobody on this planet respects the person who begs for their attention. Nobody respects the one who chases, who compromises their own worth just to get noticed, who bends until they break, hoping someone will finally give them validation. You might get pity, you might get temporary crumbs, but you will not get respect. Respect isn't given because you asked for it. Respect is commanded because of who you are, how you show up, and the strength you've built inside yourself. Respect comes when you stop chasing and start building. Respect comes when you stand tall in who you are, when you don't fold just because someone disapproves, when you stop needing everyone to like you, and you start becoming unshakable. Here's the problem. You've been taught your whole life to seek approval. From the time you were a kid, you wanted your parents' approval, your teacher's approval, your friends' approval, and now, as an adult, you're still carrying that conditioning. You're still operating like that little kid raising their hand in the classroom, waiting for someone to say, "Good job, you're enough." But life doesn't reward the ones who wait for validation. It rewards the ones who validate themselves first and build a life that makes people stop in their tracks. Let's be real. Chasing people kills your power. You put them on a pedestal. You hand them the keys to your emotions. You let them decide if you feel worthy today or worthless today. That is weakness, and weakness never earns respect. Strength earns respect. Consistency earns respect. Discipline earns respect. Living by your values, even when it costs you, earns respect. And that starts inside you. That starts when you make the decision right now that you are done handing your worth to people who don't deserve it. Think about it. When you see someone who's calm under pressure, who doesn't break when life punches them in the gut, who stays focused and refuses to compromise their standards, what do you feel toward them? You respect them because you see their strength, you see their discipline, you see their unshakable presence. You don't even have to like them to respect them. That's the level you need to build within yourself. Respect doesn't come from shouting louder than everyone else. Respect doesn't come from trying to prove yourself to people who aren't even rooting for you. Respect comes from building a life of integrity, from keeping your promises to yourself, from showing up every single day when no one's watching. It comes from stacking victories, big and small, until you've built a foundation no one can knock down. So many of you think if you just give enough, sacrifice enough, bend enough, eventually someone will look at you and finally value you. But here's the truth. They won't. They'll just keep taking, because people don't value what chases them. They value what stands firm, what has boundaries, what radiates strength. Do you know why lions command respect in the jungle? It's not because they're running after every other animal trying to prove they're the king. They don't chase. They stand, they embody power, they radiate authority, They move with certainty, and because of that, everything around them adjusts. That's what you need to become in your own life. The lion, the one who doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't fold, but builds themselves into a presence that cannot be ignored. And here's the kicker. When you stop chasing and start building, everything shifts. Suddenly, the people you were chasing notice you. Suddenly, the opportunities you thought were out of reach start finding you. Suddenly, the respect you thought you had to beg for starts showing up. Because people can't help but recognize strength when they see it. But this doesn't happen overnight. This is built in the daily grind. This is built in the moments you want to quit but keep going. This is built in the discipline of saying no when everyone else is saying yes. This is built in the silence when you're working, learning, growing while others are wasting time. Every time you choose growth over comfort, strength over weakness, discipline over distraction, you are laying bricks in the foundation of respect. And when that foundation is solid, when you've built yourself into someone unshakable, you don't just get respect. You command it without even asking. People look at you differently. They treat you differently. They talk about you differently because they know you've done the work, you've built the strength. You've become the kind of person they can't shake, they can't manipulate, they can't ignore. Respect doesn't come from chasing. It comes from building yourself into someone unshakable.